A U.S. justice ordered that the former president of Peru, Alejandro Toledo, will be taken into custody until his extradition to Peru, where he will face corruption charges. The foreign ministers of Iran and Saudi Arabia met in Beijing, the capital of China, to discuss bilateral relations. And the Israeli army deployed an airstrike on the Gaza Strip for the second consecutive day as tensions grow. From the headquarters of the TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In the United States, Judge Thomas S. Hickson of the Northern District Court of California ordered on Wednesday that the former president of Peru, Alejandro Toledo, be committed to jail in the United States until his extradition to Peru, where he will face corruption charges. The magistrate revoked a bail order against the former president and ordered him to be taken into custody by the bailiffs. Toledo must surrender himself on Friday morning, according to the resolution. On Tuesday, the former president lost an appeal filed by his legal defense to suspend his extradition. A three-member panel of the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Court of the United States Court rejected a last attempt to block his surrender to the Peruvian authorities. On Wednesday, the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, reported 51 new arrests linked to different corruption schemes under investigation. According to the Attorney General of Venezuela, the arrests were made in the grounds of corruption charges related to fraud schemes in Petróleos de Venezuela, PDVSA, Venezuela's national oil company, also Corporación Venezolana de Guayana, and Cartones de Venezuela. Likewise, Tarek William Saab stressed that the national and international community must know about the battle that the government of President Nicolás Maduro Moros is carrying out against fraud in the country. Zab also indicated that to date there are 34 people arrested for their involvement in the PDVSA crypto plot.
And today, I must say, that the hearing for the presentation of the new detainees presented before the competent body ended at 6 a.m. At 6 a.m. today. We were up to that hour with the prosecutors who have assigned for this task monitoring, keeping the pulse of this historical, let's put it this way, action led by the Public Prosecutor's Office, I repeat, as the head of the legal action, and which obviously has had, because it is always good to remember it, as the maximum leader of the findings, together with us, the head of state, President Nicolás Maduro Moros, who has been following closely each and every one of these new findings.
Latin American and Caribbean presidents agreed to promote measures to tackle inflation in the region and guarantee the supply of basic goods to the people. The heads of state of Mexico, Venezuela, Bolivia, Argentina, Cuba, Chile, Honduras, Belize, Brazil, and Colombia highlighted the need for an international financial system that allows the countries of the region to have access to the necessary resources to improve the conditions of foreign indebtedness and promote the economic recovery and food security of the peoples of the region. Likewise, they also decided to join efforts to guarantee economic growth and development in the face of inflationary pressures on the basic food basket, intermediate goods, and services that negatively affect the continental economy.
Even if this meeting brings together progressive leaderships in our continent, it's important to remember that hunger does not have an ideology, nor is it right or left wing. Hunger causes disease and kills men, women, and children anywhere in the world. It does not make political distinctions, nor does it ask for whom its victims voted in the last elections. Hunger affects almost 1 billion people around the world, of which 270 million live in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we know that it could be definitely eradicated from our planet, but unfortunately, the richest countries spend millions of dollars on wars that only bring destruction, suffering, and death.
Meanwhile, during her speech, the Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, expressed her country's intention to form an alliance of integration between Latin America and the Caribbean.
Venezuela can be a structural solution to the food problem in our region. The doors are open to work on joint projects for the production of fertilizers by dedicating regional resources and alliances between public investment and the private sector. Venezuela, therefore, proposes to develop a great alliance of petrochemical energy integration of Latin America and the Caribbean with concrete projects that will reduce the extra-regional dependence.
Now we move on to other topics. In Colombia, the Departmental Unit of Risk Management of Caldas warned of a possible eruption in the Nevado del Ruiz volcano in the next few hours. Felix Giraldo, the director of the unit, referred to the earthquakes that occurred since the night of April the 4th with a magnitude higher than 3. This fact, according to the expert, indicates that something is moving inside the volcano. While Giraldo recognized that this is within the normal range of an orange activity, he also reaffirmed that citizens and authorities cannot lower their guard, and for that reason they will continue to manage more evacuations. In words of the expert, based on the forecasts, they are now closer to an eruption. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullah met his counterpart from Saudi Arabia, Prince Faisal Farham Al Saud, in Beijing, the capital of China, on Thursday, after vowing to repair diplomatic ties. The heads of diplomacy of both nations discussed the re-establishment of bilateral relations, the executive steps for the reopening of embassies and consulates, as well as other issues of common interest at the meeting promoted by China. On March the 10th, after several months of negotiations, Beijing, Tehran, and Riyadh officially announced an agreement to resume their diplomatic relations, interrupted in recent years by deep divergences over different regional issues, as well as for Washington's interference in Iran's affairs. Now we move on to other topics. During a meeting at Russia's Security Council, President Vladimir Putin spoke about the current situation in the territories that voted in referendum to join the Federation. The leaders of the new territories were present in the meeting.
The situation in these regions remains tense. The Kiev regime continues to commit serious crimes against civilians. Living there spares no one, expose cities and towns to rocket attacks, artillery, mortar attacks. Terror attacks are carried out against government officials and law enforcement agencies, journalists, public figures, school and university teachers, and neo-Nazis and their accomplices act not only on the territory of the new regions of the Federation, but also commit crimes in other regions.
During the meeting, Murat Kushunulin, Deputy Prime Minister, referred to the reconstruction works underway in the areas that were affected by the conflict. On this same issue, the Russian president explained that the objective is to deliver the works as soon as possible.
More than 300 kilometers of roads were built and reconstructed from Crimea to Rostov-on-Don, which provided us with an independent transport route apart from the Crimean Bridge. I would like to note the grave role of the National Guard in protecting the facilities. Not only did we build and restore bridges, but all objects were taken under control. We built the necessary bypass pipeline in Melitopol, 72 kilometers, thus creating a gas supply system independent of the Ukrainian one.
The goal is to do everything possible to integrate this historical Russian lands of Donbass, Novorossiya into the economic, legal, and educational space of our country as soon as possible. And already now, under difficult conditions, housing, roads, educational, cultural, sanitary facilities, industrial, and agricultural enterprises are being actively restored.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met with his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko in Moscow on Wednesday. The meeting took place on the eve of the meeting of the Supreme State Council of the Union State, scheduled for April the 6th. Russia and Belarus, through joint efforts, have achieved good results both in the international arena and in the solution of security issues of the two states. Vladimir Putin said. On March 25th, Putin issued new threats against Western countries supporting Ukraine, announcing an agreement with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to deploy tactical nuclear weapons in the country.
I must say that a lot has been done as a result of our joint work in all areas. Tomorrow, I repeat, we will discuss all this. This also applies to our interaction in the international arena to jointly solve issues of ensuring the security of our states, but of course, it is especially gratifying to know the results of our work in the economic sphere.
We didn't collapse. Yes, it won't be easy. Well, when was it easy? We will endure and do everything, even in microelectronics, about which you and I met about a year ago in your office and discussed what we should do. It turns out that there is an opportunity to work in this sphere. Missiles fly and military equipment moves both in our and your country. So we will overcome everything. We just need some time.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy your Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, at least 400 people were arrested after a new Israeli aggression in the Al-Aqsa mosque amidst worldwide condemnation by Muslim governments and people. On Wednesday, Israeli forces brutally stormed the Al-Aqsa mosque for a second consecutive day with stun grenades, tear gas bombs, clubs and rifles. At the same time, a third Israeli attack was registered in the city of al-Fam, where at least 6 young Palestinians were injured. The Israeli persecution has caused significant damage to public infrastructure and has left more than 300 Palestinians wounded in the last 2 days. The Israeli assault against worshippers coincides with the celebration of Ramadan during the month of fasting in the Islamic lunar calendar, a time when every year Israel ramps up its violence against the Palestinians. And the Israeli army on Thursday, for the second consecutive day, deployed an airstrike in the Gaza Strip. Israeli planes bombed the coastal enclave, home to more than 2 million people. The occupying army ships also opened fire from the coast, and a drone launched at least one missile at a target in the New Zerite refugee camp, located in the central part of that territory. Bombs were also reported in the northern city of Belarus. Israeli forces confirmed the attack and alleged that it was in response to the firing of several rockets from the Palestinian territory. At the same time, the United Nations also condemned the Israeli aggression against hundreds of Muslim worshippers in the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. In this regard, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Tor Wensland, expressed concern about the Israeli siege against the Palestinian people and urged the parties to reject incitement, inflammatory rhetoric, and provocative actions, as well as to maintain the status quo of the holy sites in Jerusalem. And the Arab League condemned on Wednesday the assault by Israeli forces on the Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem. Arab League members held an emergency meeting in Cairo after Israeli forces raided Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Palestinian militant group Hamas called on West Bank Palestinians to flock to the Al-Aqsa Mosque to defend it. This Jerusalem mosque, illegally annexed by Israel, is Islam's third holiest site. It is built on what Jews call the Temple Mount, the holy site in Judaism. Jordan's representative to the Arab League, Ahmad Al-Adaliev, says his country condemns any Israeli steps that affect the sanctity of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Jordan rejects and condemns any Israeli steps that would affect the sanctity of the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque and stresses its unwavering demands to stop all measures aimed at changing the historical and legal status of the city of Jerusalem and its sanctities.
And solidarity is one of the most outstanding characteristics of the Syrian people. Although this virtue is present throughout the year, it is its strongest point during Ramadan, the Muslim month of fasting. Let's take a look.
No to Hunger is a charitable initiative of the civil association side. It is one of the many humanitarian activities that take place during Ramadan. This work is carried out by hundreds of young volunteers from all regions' backgrounds in Syrian society. They do it with their own resources and with the support of the Syrian people and government.
This is humanitarian work that we do on a voluntary basis as part of the culture of solidarity that characterizes our people, so that, with the support of the authorities, we can help many unfortunate families during this holy month. We do this with our own resources and with the support of donors from civil society who increases humanitarian response capacity.
This is the 11th year of the No to Hunger initiative. Every day, the Saed Association offers free food to the needy people. This year, in addition to those affected by the war and the blockade, the initiative will also reach hundreds of families affected by the earthquake of 6th February.
Since the earthquake, volunteers from our association have been in Aleppo helping affected families and providing more than 12,000 daily food rations to fasting people and those in temporary shelters, with the aim of reaching 50,000 portions per day. And here in Damascus, we are also providing more than 4,500 meals per day.
In all the country's provinces, as in Damascus, charities are carrying out important humanitarian operations. Iftar al-Rahman, another social solidarity initiative, offers a free meal to earthquake-affected families in the coastal province of Latakia at the time of breaking fast.
The earthquake that struck the province of Latakia has tripled the number of people in need, who are also suffering from the effects of war and the blockade. That is why these charitable initiatives are particularly important in the difficult circumstances that the country is going through. And we, on behalf of the authorities, offer all the necessary support for the success of this initiative, which have a great human impact during Ramadan.
In the midst of the unjust blockade imposed on my beloved homeland Syria and the so-called Caesar Act of criminal and inhumane U.S. sanctions, we are having a hard time securing the necessary food materials to prepare the food rations we offer to the ones in need, but we are still working and managing as much as possible to alleviate the suffering of our affected brothers and sisters.
Ramadan is kind. This is the word used by Muslims to describe the month of fasting. Ramadan is a month of generosity, a generosity that is manifested in initiatives and acts of solidarity that contribute to the consolidation of the Syrian people's steadfastness in the face of the current difficult situation that their country is going through.
Hisham Wannus, TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.